All right, it's time to be real with you guys. I have a love-hate relationship with film gear. A lot of this stuff is so expensive, and I definitely have had my fair share of buying a bunch of equipment that over the years have just become completely useless. But every now and again, I'll actually buy a piece of film gear that actually helps me evolve my filmmaking and take my filmmaking to the next level. Today we're going to talk about some film gear that has literally changed my career. And just so you guys know, none of this gear is sponsored. This is all coming from just 10 years of my experience of trial and error of film gear that really works and some gear that doesn't. This video is brought to you by Skillshare, but more on that later. The first piece of gear that we're going to talk about today is something that took me way too long to invest in, and that is a good color accurate computer monitor. If you guys think about it, there's so much that goes into making a film or a commercial. You have hours of planning your shots, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars sometimes going into production, and it all funnels down into your editing software and the monitor that you're editing on. It is so important to make sure that your monitor is color accurate and bright enough to be able to properly color and edit your projects on. And the reason why I'm bringing this up to you guys, and it's the first on my list, is because I really had no idea how bad I needed a color accurate monitor until I used one. Now, the monitor that I'm using today is a BenQ PD3420, and I'm not saying that you have to go out and get this exact monitor, but I am saying that you should think about getting a monitor with specs similar to these. You know, for the first few years of my filmmaking career, I was driving myself nuts trying to figure out why every time I colored something, why it would just look so much different on a phone or a computer, a different computer screen or a laptop or even a TV. It would just look terrible. The blacks would be way too crushed. Everything would be way too dark. The skin tones would be a little bit off. Just the whole color in general would just be off. And it wasn't until a few years ago where I made the decision to actually go out and get one of these monitors. But it took me getting roasted so bad on the internet for my coloring that I was like, all right, that's it. I'm just gonna buy a coloring monitor. That was my last solution. I did everything else that I possibly could. And once I got this coloring monitor, I realized that I've been flying blind for years. I've been trying to color things that had no business being colored on the monitors that I was coloring them on. And right away, it elevated every piece of work that I did. So I strongly suggest, not that I'm saying to go out and get this exact monitor, but check out this monitor and check out monitor with similar specs. It doesn't have to be huge, doesn't have to be big. You know, this is a 34-inch monitor that I'm working with, but just get yourself something that's really, truly color accurate, and I promise you it's gonna be a game changer. Time and time again, I see beginner filmmakers go out and spend all of their money on a camera and a lens, but they completely forget about one of the most important aspects of filmmaking, and that is good audio. And I'm sure over the years you've heard this time and time again, filmmakers say that audio is half the battle when it comes to filmmaking. And as cliche as that statement is, it's so true. If I was to start my filmmaking career from scratch and I had no gear, one of the first things that I would go out and invest in is a good shotgun microphone. And just to put this into perspective for you guys, I've been doing filmmaking for about 10 years now, and I bought myself a shotgun microphone and only bought one shotgun microphone my entire filmmaking career. So that one shotgun microphone has lasted me 10 years. Now, I wish I could say the same thing about cameras, but I'm already on my 4th camera in about 10 years. And if you guys put that into perspective, I've gotten way more value for my dollar spent on that microphone than I have any camera that I've bought or any lens that I bought in the last 10 years. And the microphone that I have and that I love and that I recommend to you guys is checking out the NTG3. I think that for the money that you spend, this is one of the best microphones that you could possibly get on the market. I think that it gets great quality audio, especially for the amount of money that you spend on it. And there's a few other recommendations that I have for microphones at different budgets. I actually made a video breaking down the best microphones at every budget. And if you guys want to check that out, I'll leave a link right up here. Now, in terms of audio, the other thing that I really recommend doing is getting yourself a good lav system. And the one that I recommend is this lav system by Sennheiser, the AVX MKE2. I think having a good lav microphone, even if it's just 1 or 2 lav mics, I think it's going to help you so many times during your filmmaking career. As filmmakers, when we're just starting out, we do a lot of corporate interviews or talking head pieces, and to be able to have a reliable, good lav mic system to make sure that you're going to capture good, clean audio on your subject is extremely important, and it's going to last you a long time. Just like my shotgun microphone, I've only bought 2 lav mics my entire life. So think about that when you are looking to invest in film gear. And then while we're on the topic of lav mics, another thing that I would consider is ditching the microphone that comes with your lav mic system and checking out this Sanken microphone. Trust me, in terms of sound quality, this is definitely going to be a huge step up from the stock microphone that they give you in your lav mic system. This microphone is just levels above that microphone, and you're gonna notice a huge difference in your audio quality. If you guys wanna learn more about filmmaking and the gear you need to make better films, then you have to check out Skillshare. Skillshare is an online community with thousands of classes for creators. You can learn everything from directing to cinematography and even the gear you need to produce your projects. What I love about Skillshare is the ability to follow their design learning paths that can take you from novice to expert with their hand-picked classes that build upon one another. And Skillshare is packed with a ton of YouTubers that I already love learning from creators like Marquise Brownlee to Jordy Vandepew and many more. Skillshare offers so many different talented and accomplished instructors to learn and gain experience from. If you're someone looking to take your career or side hustle to the next level, Skillshare is an incredible place to start. And right now, the first 500 people that use my link in the description down below will receive the first month for free. So check it out, because honestly, you got nothing to lose. The next piece of gear has found its way literally on every single production that I've been on it since I bought it, and that is this Aperture Infinity Bar. Not only is this light extremely bright for the size and the price, but it's also an RGB light that you have complete control over with using Sidus Link. And a big reason why I can take this light literally anywhere is because it's so lightweight and it's easy to pack. Everything comes in this one little carrying case, and I can quickly throw this on my back or in my bag, and I don't even have to bring big heavy C-stands because they have magnets on the back of this light where you could attach this to any piece of metal around you, or you could actually buy this little handle light stand and you could attach it to the bottom of the light, and now this is a stand that you could place on anything. You could place this light anywhere, and it's just great to add some fill light or hair light or just be a practical light in the background. More often than not, I'm in run and gun situations where I'm making documentaries and I have to just set up my camera and roll. And a lot of the times I miss out on properly color balancing my image. And that is why this next piece of gear is so important. And the piece of gear that I'm talking about is this little color checker by Calibri. For years, I would go out and shoot footage and I would forget to color balance. And getting the color correction right in post a lot of times can be a tricky and time-consuming process. But ever since I bought this Calibri color checker, I just make sure that I take a couple seconds and I have my subject hold up the color checker and make sure that it's in both my camera angles. And now I can quickly color balance any shot that I shoot, even if it's way off. I don't know how many times you've gotten back to the editing room and you're like, wow, this shot is way too blue or way too warm or way too green or magenta. And it's hard to dial in the exact color balance to every other shot that you have sometimes. Like I said, it could be an extremely time-consuming process that you could bypass really quickly if you have one of these things. So I definitely suggest either going out and getting this one that I really like or checking out some other ones that you can find on Amazon for cheaper. Now we are on to something that I believe every filmmaker should own, and that is a camera monitor. This is a piece of gear that I never leave my house without, because no matter how big or how small your monitor is on your camera, you're always gonna need an on-camera monitor just to make sure that you could see your full frame and be able to make sure that you nail focus. You know, the first few years of my career, I thought that I could get away without having a camera monitor. And just like, you know, that color accurate monitor that we talked about in the beginning of this video, I didn't know what I was missing until I got it. And when I actually got a camera monitor, I was like, wow, man, like I'm able to see the full frame. You know, I was able to make little adjustments in the details of like, I want this out of frame, or I want this out of frame, or maybe this color is off, or, you know, whatever it is. And then most importantly, the most important part of having an on-camera monitor is being able to have that focus peaking on your monitor and being able to actually nail focus. So I highly suggest, you know, going out and getting yourself a camera monitor. I'm going to leave some links to some of my favorite camera monitors down below, but just make sure whatever camera monitor that you do guys end up deciding on getting, they have that focus peaking ability and it's actually usable, and make sure that it works for you. I would return it the day of if it's not perfect and it doesn't solve that purpose for you, because that is the main purpose of getting a good on-camera monitor. Now, I know I already mentioned the Aperture Infinity Bar, but one thing that really stepped up my cinematography and just my filmmaking in general is getting really good film lights. I'm gonna keep it real with you guys. There's so much gear that I bought that I completely wasted money on in the beginning of my career, like a matte box and really nice gimbals and expensive sliders, all of that stuff. I really wish that I never even thought about, and I just invested all of that into film lights. And my recommendation for film lights is make sure that you get yourself a couple of really strong, powerful lights, maybe an Aperture 300D or even a GVM 650B. My suggestion is, instead of buying 3 cheap lights, go out and spend the money and invest in one really strong light, because that really strong light is going to carry on with you throughout your entire filmmaking career. Like I said, I got this GVM 650B. This light handles almost every lighting situation that I could possibly be in. And if I need something that much stronger, then I can go out and I could rent, you know, like a 1200D or whatever it is. I think Aperture makes some great stuff. The GVM Pro series makes some really great lights that I would recommend. And just like everything else, guys, I'm going to link everything down below so you guys can check those out. All right, we are on my last recommendation, and it's not necessarily a piece of gear that every filmmaker is going to need, and it works for every filmmaker, but I noticed that when I got this for me, it really helped me in what I was doing. And like I said in the beginning of this video, guys, I do a lot of documentary filmmaking. I think, especially for documentary filmmakers, this piece of gear is a must. And the piece of gear that we're talking about today is an Easy Rig. For me, the Easy Rig changed my life because I would miss so many shots following my subjects around, or being on a long shoot day of like 6 to 8 hours and holding up a big heavy camera. It was just tough for me to be able to follow people around for an hour or two at a time and be able to capture every little detail of what I was filming. But when I threw on this Easy Rig and I attached this to my camera, I was able to film for hours on end without my arms getting tired or wanting to put the camera down, which allowed me to capture stories in their entirety. I was able to follow people around and go through their entire day without ever having to put the camera down. And that to me was so valuable, because if you think about it, not having this gear made me miss shots that could possibly alter the course of the storytelling that I was doing. So in my mind, it was a no-brainer to invest in something like this. And they're not cheap. They're like anywhere between $1,300 to $1,500 for a good one. I'm going to leave a link down below to the one that I use and the one that I strongly recommend. And I think for filmmakers that do a lot of similar things that I do, which is sports videography or, you know, documentary filmmaking or run and gun shooting, I think that the Easy Rig is a must-have. I want to thank you guys for stopping in and hanging out, talking about film gear with me. I know that we went over a pretty big list today, but I just want to give you guys one last tip, and that is, I think the things that are going to help you guys the most is studying things like cinematography and composition and storytelling. All these things are going to help you a lot more than just going out and buying, you know, a new piece of gear. I think that as filmmakers, a lot of the time, especially when we're first starting out, we get so caught up in the latest and greatest gear that, you know, filmmakers are peddling out to us on YouTube and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, I think that gear is going to be able to help you elevate whatever knowledge that you have, but you're really not going to be able to go anywhere until you really sit down and you study those things. Again, like I said, cinematography, composition, storytelling, directing, those are really important aspects that are going to elevate your career that you can't forget about. So, like I said, thank you so much for stopping in and hanging out, and I'll see you guys next week. Deuces.